On September 1st, 1807, former U.S. Vice President Aaron Burr, famous for killing former Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton in a duel 3 years earlier, is acquitted on a treason charge. Aaron Burr was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1756. He studied at Princeton and later at Litchfield Law School in Connecticut. During the American Revolutionary War, the young Burr served under Colonial General Richard Montgomery and received a congressional commendation for bravery in action. After the war, Burr practiced law in Albany, New York, and then in New York City. He was outspoken in his defense of a free press and was, in fact, ahead of his time in many of his political views. First off, Burr was an early abolitionist. He also fought for electoral representation for all citizens, not just property owners. Additionally, Burr defended the rights of immigrants and was also ahead of his time when it came to women's rights. He promoted the ideas of British feminist Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote an important book in the late 18th century called A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Wollstonecraft, incidentally, was also the mother of Frankenstein author Mary Shelley. Burr even introduced a bill at the New York State Assembly that would have granted women the right to vote in the state. Of course, that bill didn't get very far, but Burr deserves credit for being the one behind it. However, Burr and fellow Revolutionary War veteran and politician Alexander Hamilton developed an intense rivalry. The two did not see eye to eye, mainly because Hamilton distrusted Burr. Hamilton saw Burr not as an ideologist, but as a Machiavellian, unprincipled political opportunist, willing to shift his views and allegiances at any time to advance his career. Hamilton famously used his influence to make sure Jefferson, not Burr, became president in the election of 1800. Burr instead became Jefferson's vice president. Jefferson, however, chose a new running mate in 1804, so Burr decided to run for governor of New York. Hamilton, also a New Yorker, used his influence against Burr again, and he lost by a wide margin. Burr was furious. The two exchanged a series of fiery letters that became increasingly intense. Their feud eventually culminated in a famous 1804 duel where Vice President Burr shot and killed former U.S. Treasury Secretary Hamilton. Notably, after the duel, Burr expected to be viewed as a hero for defending his honor. Instead, he faced public outcry. Burr fled to Georgia to a friend's plantation. He was charged with murder in both New York and New Jersey, but neither charge reached trial. He then returned to Washington, D.C. to finish his term as vice president, which ended in March 1805. Burr's role in Hamilton's death, however, effectively ended his political career. Burr then traveled to New Orleans and met with U.S. General James Wilkinson, who was an agent of Spain, and together they hatched a plot. Their exact plan is unknown, but it is speculated that they were hoping to seize U.S. and/or Spanish territory and establish an independent republic. Burr led a well-armed group of settlers toward New Orleans in 1806, prompting an immediate investigation by U.S. authorities. General Wilkinson panicked and turned on Burr, sending dispatches accusing him of treason. Burr was arrested in Wakefield, Alabama, and sent to Virginia for trial. The trial was held at the Virginia State Capitol in Richmond, in the Old House Chamber. Mrs. Lewis and I visited the location in 2025. The trial was presided over by United States Chief Justice John Marshall. In the end, Burr was acquitted, mainly because it was determined that he had not engaged in an overt act, a requirement for treason specified in the U.S. Constitution. The public, however, still saw Burr as a traitor, so he moved to Europe for a time, but he eventually returned to New York and died on Staten Island in 1836 at age 80. Any Burr contributions to the founding of the United States are forever overshadowed by the duel. In Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical Hamilton, Burr's character was played brilliantly by Tony winner Leslie Odom Jr. in the original cast. He sings, "History obliterates in every picture it paints. It paints me and all my mistakes. When Alexander aimed at the sky, he may have been the first one to die, but I'm the one who paid for it. I survived, but I paid for it. Now I'm the villain in your history." Alexander Hamilton's complicated legacy, on the other hand, has been positively restored thanks to the vast writings he left behind and, of course, the hit musical Hamilton. Unfortunately for Burr, no such comeback is likely to occur, in large part because only 2 small volumes of his writings were left behind, with most of his personal writings lost in an 1803 shipwreck. It is difficult, therefore, to know what Burr really thought about, well, anything. We'll probably never know whether Hamilton's judgments of Burr's character were accurate or not. Those lost writings may have painted a very different picture of Aaron Burr. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1775, England's king refuses the Continental Congress's effort to reconcile, called the Olive Branch Petition. In 1864, during the American Civil War, Confederate General Hood orders the evacuation of Atlanta. In 1939, Nazi Germany invades Poland, triggering Britain and France to declare war 2 days later. In 1964, pitcher Masanori Murakami becomes the first Japanese-born player in MLB history. In 1969, 27-year-old Muammar Gaddafi leads a successful military coup in his native Libya. In 1985, the wreck of the Titanic is discovered on the Atlantic Ocean floor by Robert Ballard. In 1998, airbags become mandatory on all new cars and light trucks sold in the United States. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. When did the Great Fire of London occur? 1555, 1666, 1777, or 1888? Think you know the answer? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Find out if you're right next time on Today in History. You made it through Today in History. Nice work. Now treat yourself. Click the video on the right for what happened yesterday in history. Still can't get enough? The link on the left's got the whole playlist buffet. Want to make history a daily habit? Click my face in the middle to subscribe.